right, notifying listeners. That's always good. On my phone again. Right. What fantasy questions, or do you have any fantasy questions heading into Monday night or upcoming for the week? I'm here to take your questions. All right, Bryson, thanks for joining. Neo, thanks for joining. Devon, Chan, or Puka? Let me get right on that, Rex. I think you usually arrive pretty early. I think you arrived early last week sometime. Let me look up. We're just dealing with two teams tonight. So, how are the Rams against the run? If I can find them. I think last week I had this. Where are the Rams? The Bills. I'm getting a lot of people here. All right. I'll get to everybody. The Rams are number 15 against the run. 15th lowest or 15th highest right now. How's Miami against the pass? The wide receivers. Miami's number 1. So I would go with a Chan. That's kind of who I thought, but the Rams are number 15 against running backs, points allowed on average for running backs. So I would go with a Chan on that one, Rex. All right, let's see who we got here. As probably a lot of you know, I look for people to follow me. We're all caught up on gifts. There hasn't been any gifts. If you want to send me a rose, it costs 1 coin, which is like 1 penny. Did I get a rose? Yep. Nathan gave me a rose. All right, Nathan. You move to the front of the line. That's your golden ticket. Let me look. Nathan. All right. Kyron or Saquon rest of the season. Kyron a little bit better schedule in my opinion. Well, let me look at the schedules for both of them. Oh man. Okay. I'm getting to it. I'm calling them up. For some reason it seems like today I'm moving slow. I don't know why that is. Like everything seems to be in slow motion today. All right. So let's look at Saquon real quick. Washington, the Rams, Baltimore. Baltimore's very, very, very tough against the run. Carolina's not. Pittsburgh against the run is 12. Washington, let me just look up Washington because I think they play them twice. Washington's 19th against the run. Dallas is probably not really good. Nope. Dallas is 31st out of 32 teams against the run. So Saquon has Baltimore, Carolina. Saquon doesn't have a bad schedule against teams with a good running back defense or defense against running backs. Washington, Rams, Baltimore. Washington. All right. I got another rose from somebody. I'll have to check that out in just a second. Commanders are 19th. Yeah, I mean, Saquon's not that bad of a strength of schedule. Let's look at Williams. I know you said Williams is easier. Well, he plays Miami tonight, obviously. Philadelphia, the Eagles against the run are number 3. New Orleans against the run, I don't think they're great. They're 29th. Buffalo, 25th. San Fran, New York, and Arizona. 49ers. The Jets against the run are 8th. And Arizona, the Cardinals. Yeah, I would say that, Nathan, I would say that you're right. Kyron has a little bit easier rest of schedule strength for teams that have good defenses against running backs. It's not by a lot. Like if by chance you had to switch it out. Hey, Elver, thank you very much. I know someone else gave a rose, or we got another rose, but thank you, Elver. Appreciate that. Oh, we're at 2 now. Okay, or is that 12? Good Lord. Okay, so I have to do this on my phone, so it's always a pain in the butt. I would say Kyron has a little bit easier schedule. Now, as far as just how they are playing, obviously Saquon, probably because it was a blowout, didn't have many points against Dallas. Kyron pretty much, outside of last week, has been hitting that 13-point mark every week. And that's important to me. That's like my recipe: 13 points from a running back, 13 points from a wide receiver, and wide receiver and running back, that is. And then 19 or over from your quarterback, and 10 by defense and kicker, and 7 by your tight end. And you'll do well every week if you can average that. Now, some weeks you'll go up against Jamar Chase and he'll have 50 points alone. So you might lose that week. But I would say Kyron has just a little bit easier. So, yeah, I would agree with your assessment. I think it's good. So don't. Hey, Nathaniel's here. Hey, Nathaniel. Okay, who's this joker? I just got to get rid of somebody on. Okay, they're just being stupid on YouTube. Hey, Daniel Barry. Nathaniel's giving me all kinds of problem. A buddy of mine on YouTube is giving me all kinds of problems on because we play tonight, and if Cooper Kupp scores over 5.5 points, I win. All right, Nathan Crap. Okay, and then Elver. Let's see what Elver's question is here. Elver, my matchup this week is down to Achane versus Kupp. For the win, who's taking it? Well, the Dolphins against wide receivers are number one in football, okay? Specifically wide receivers by position. The Rams against running backs are 15. It's a much better matchup for Achane. I would give you the bump. Now, I don't know what the score is right now, Elver. I don't know if it's even. I don't know if you have to make up 10 points or you're ahead by 10 points. Let's say that it's even. I think you win. Now, Achane could get, let's say Achane gets 18 points and Kupp could get 12. Like, that's realistic to me. Okay. So hopefully you're up by more than, well, you would win by 6, but hopefully they're not up by more than 6, because that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, hey, Aton, nice to have you on board. Good to see you. Yeah. All right. So we're all caught up on gifting on TikTok. So we got to get, what? What happened? What's the permanent ban? End live immediately to avoid permanent ban. Okay, I'm going to end my live immediately. Is that serious? What is going on here? Okay, everybody on YouTube, just stay there. I don't know why. I don't know what is going on. Good Lord. I hate going live on my phone. This is ridiculous. All right, YouTube. Yeah, I think Gabriel beat you, Aton, right? He had Jamar Chase, though, so I don't know why. Are people just going on TikTok reporting me? Hey, Elver, sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what's happening on TikTok. Oh, those messages are fake? Oh, thank you. I don't know. Look, all I know is that I try to people copy and paste. Okay. Good to know. I kind of thought that way, but I wasn't 100% sure. So sorry about making you jump around. But yeah, I would. You were asking about whether or not you would win or not. Yeah, I think with a Chan you'll win. People copy and paste that. Okay, it's good to know. Oh, so I will not worry about that. Usually when I do something wrong, it's at the top, but that was in the chat, and I was like, okay, what's going on? All right, well, thank you, Elver, because I probably don't watch enough live streams, and when I do, I'll be honest with you, I hear a lot of bad football advice, and it makes me kind of annoyed. But right now, tonight, guys, I think a chance should have a good game. The Rams are 15th against running backs. The Dolphins against wide receivers are number one. And so let's flip that. Let's look at the Dolphins. How are the Dolphins against running backs? The Dolphins against running backs are 28th. Which is, like the opposite end of the spectrum, obviously. So, and then we have the Rams against wide receivers. So we have the Rams are 27th against wide receivers. All right. So the Rams ranked 15th against running back, 27th against wide receivers. The Dolphins number 1 against wide receivers and number 28 against running backs. So they're at both ends of the spectrum. All right. Is Juju playable if he starts? Well, I mean, that would be, you'd have to follow it. I'm up by 4 points, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm in back-to-back losses by 3 and 1 point different. Yeah. When you get to this time of the league and you have Jamar Chases and things like that, putting up a lot of points, I mean, things end up getting close and they get a lot tighter. So being up by 4 is a good amount. You just hope that a Chan should have, in my estimation, 12 to 16 points. The Rams wide receivers might have a tough day because of the Dolphins. The Dolphins are ranked number 1 against wide receivers, or points allowed for wide receivers. The Dolphins are 28th though against running backs. So I think Kyren can have a monstrous day. He could put up a lot of points today. And then the Rams against wide receivers are ranked 27th. So so the Dolphins wide receivers like Tyreek and Waddle could have good days. So Tyreek, Waddle, and Kyren should have good days. And I'm emphasizing Tyreek and Kyren the most because they're sort of the superstars of that. So, all right. All right. Let's see. As some of you know and some of you don't, basically, if you send me a gift, and it can be a rose, it can be 1 coin, you jump to the top of the list. You jump to the top. It's your golden ticket. You're the top of the line, let's say. You move to the top of the line. If you follow me or if you've gifted in the past and we're all caught up on gifting, you move up then. And right now, we're caught up on gifting. I actually I jumped off because it's probably a little chicken. I got this weird message in my chat, but Elver said not to worry, that it was just people copy and paste. So it looks like we don't have a lot of people that have gifted in the past right now. And it looks like no one's followed me. Oh, Jake has. What's Jake's question? All right, Jake. Since Jake followed me, we're all caught up on gifting. I'm going to read Jake's question if he has one, or if it hasn't been filtered out, because TikTok did let me know that they filtered out some questions. I just try to. Okay. MHJ, Brooks, and Malik for Nico, Pickens, and Tracy. Okay. Well, first off, Jake, I'm a little biased against MHJ because I find him to be inconsistent. And so I'm biased against him. Like he had 13 points this week, which is good. As some of you know who watch me and some of you don't, who might be new, I sort of have this formula, recipe, whatever you want to call it, that in a 10-team league, if your quarterback can get 19 or over points or more, your running back, wide receiver, flex can get 13 or more, your tight end can get you 7 or more, and your defense and your kicker can get you 10 or more, you're gonna have a pretty good fantasy team. Now you might be at this point, what's this, week 10, you might be 6-4, you might be 5-5, you could be 7-3, you could be better. It kind of depends on who you're going against, but that formula gives you almost 100 points every week or a little bit above that. And if you can hit those targets, you'll have a really good team. And MHJ is hard for me to start because of that. I took a long way to answer that, obviously, Jake, but and when you say Brooks, I'm assuming you mean Jonathan Brooks. Let me just see. No, this is all from yesterday. We know he didn't play. So assuming Brooks experiences no setback during week 12 practices, are they on a bye? They're on a bye, aren't they? Week 11, yeah. So he won't play till Kansas City in week 12, Brooks. Okay, so you're giving up MHJ. I'm assuming, Jake, you're giving up MHJ, Brooks, and Malik. You're getting Nico. Hey, Andrew, you will be next after I get done with Jake. Thank you for the gift. Nico coming back probably this week. I think Pickens, what did he end up getting yesterday? I've been pretty, as I say, bullish, but that makes me sound like a total dork, but that's just what I keep saying. So I apologize. I like Pickens a lot. The fact that they got Mike Williams, I think, helps him out. He had 18 points last week, 9.4 the week before, 19. So 2 of the last 4 weeks, he's gone over that 13-point mark as a wide receiver, and that's what you want in a 10-team league. Hopefully he'll be a little bit more consistent. I think Tracy had a good game as well, and that's a good sign for that. So yeah, I mean, if you're giving up MHJ, Brooks, and Malik, and you're getting Nico, Pickens, and Tracy, I would do that trade. I mean, I think you're really winning that trade. MHJ's inconsistent. Nico, before he was injured, had the most receiving yards in the NFL. Hold on. I don't know when Brooks is going to start playing. Now, he's supposedly going to take away carries from Chuba Hubbard, but I think that's going to be tough. Chuba's shown, at least last week, that he's a very, very, very solid running back. I was kind of surprised he didn't move before the deadline. So, and then Tracy, I think, is going to be a good running back for the Giants now that he clearly has that role. Malik, the thing about Malik that I guess I'm not happy about with Daniel Jones is he's not putting up the same points he had before the injury. Let me just double check what he had last night. Where am I at? Okay. I mean, he's had the last 4 weeks since he's gotten back from the injury, 6, 10, 10, 7.8. Before he was getting 23, 24, 17, but it's a little bit different offense, and I don't love Daniel Jones as a quarterback. So I think it's a great trade, Jake. I would do that. Okay, let me go look for Andrew's question. Andrew, would you trade Breece for or keep High? For OR? Okay, are you giving me code here, Andrew, for OR? Is there someone... Who would you trade Breece for or keep him? If you can get something for him, but I don't think he put up any decent numbers yesterday. He's on one of my teams, and when he was kind of on a little bit of that role earlier in the season, I could start him with no problem, but then he'd start sort of laying an egg. Week 1, 15, 20, 16, then he had 2, then he had 5, 19, 23, 9.4, 9.5, and 10.3. What's going on here is he's not being used in the catching, in passing situations as much, okay? When he's gotten his most points, that's when he's had higher numbers of receiving yards. Also, for whatever reason, they don't put him in a situation to score a lot of touchdowns, Andrew. So right now, unless the person isn't following fantasy sports, or maybe they're a Jets fan and they really want to, or they live in New York and they just want New York players. I mean, sometimes you get people like that, or, obviously I don't know where you live, and they might just want the Jets. The thing about Breece Hall is I believe that he's a very talented player, and I'm not going to dispute that one iota. Arturo, I'll get to you right after this question on YouTube. Oh, you traded Chase for CD a few weeks ago? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would not be advisable. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, Chase had, yeah, anyway, Chase had some bumps, but yeah, that looks really sad after last week when he put up 50 points. But the thing about Brees is he hasn't been consistent. I know that he's talented, but he's not putting up the points. I don't know what you could get for him. That's the only problem. Would you get a Tank Dell? Would you even want a Tank Dell for him? He's relatively inconsistent. Maybe you could trade Brees away for a team that's loaded with wide receivers and has a bunch on their bench. You might be able to do that, but he's clearly not consistent like he needs to be. Now, that's not to say he doesn't have a pretty good ceiling. He did score 23 points. He did score 20.9 points in fantasy this year. So he's a legitimate player. But I traded CD for Garrett Wilson and Pickens. Okay, well, Turo, you got yourself out of that. So, Andrew, yeah, I mean, you can see who you could trade him for. You're not going to get a lot for him. That's my only fear. You almost have to wait and see if, like this weekend, he has a breakout and scores 23 points again, and then you can maybe put him on the trading block because and I know that he's very inconsistent. Or you keep him on your bench in case any of your running backs get injured and you have to play him. The only thing about it is 9 points in a 10-team league, 10-team fantasy league doesn't really help you out because in my mind, running backs or a flex have to get you to 13. They have to get you to 13 every week, to be competitive. So if he gets 9 points, you got to find 4 points from somebody else. So that puts you behind the 8 ball as soon as you start. All right. We're all caught up on gifting. If you want to send a rose, you want to send a lightning bolt, whatever it is, I think they're all mostly one coin, which is 1 penny, and you can move to the front of the line. But while we're caught up on gifts, if you want to send a gift right now, you'd be first in line. That's kind of how it works on my channel, and it can be a penny. I'm not really too worried about how much you send. But Arturo on YouTube, you traded CD for Garrett Wilson and Pickens. Probably not a bad idea. Pickens is picking up steam, literally, no pun intended. And Garrett Wilson, I don't know what he did yesterday. I mean, the thing about the Jets offense is, like, I was telling, sometimes I tell people it's not a bad idea to avoid, well, earlier in the year, before Tua came back, to avoid Jets. Hey, CBC Mexico's here. Thanks for joining. What did Garrett Wilson get? Garrett Wilson. Oh, okay. He had 6.6 points. So, yeah, he can do a little bit better than that. That offense just looked lousy yesterday. All right, Ethan. We're all caught up on gifting here. So if you want to send a rose, it's 1 coin. You move to the front of the line. Just saying, just let you know. But while we're all caught up on gifting, I'm going to go through people who have gifted in the past or who have followed me in the chat tonight, or, where it says so-and-so followed. But Ethan has gifted in the past. Got Lamar for Jaden Daniels and Aaron Jones. Did I win? Well, let's look up Lamar real quick. I know he's putting up monster numbers. I mean, obviously you wanted to. Hey, CBC Mexico, you will be next after Ethan. Okay. So Lamar Jackson has 260 yards. I mean, Lamar Jackson is pretty much, you can stick him in at, he's only gone under 20 points. He actually had 19.9 points. So I'm going to round up and say 20. He's only had under 20 points one game. That was week 2 when they played Vegas. So, last week, 32, 23, 24, 34, 19.9, 33, 23, 25. So you can just pencil him in for 23 points almost at minimum. Now, Daniels obviously did not have a good day, but it also sounds like, Ethan, that you might need a running back, and that's why you wanted to go after Jones. That would be my guess. Yeah, because Daniels only had 8.58 last game. He had 19.8, round up 20, 22, 5, then 20, then 25. So he's actually regressed a little bit points wise. He only had 5.24 points. I think he got hurt in that game though against Carolina. So I'm not going to count that. But against Pittsburgh, they're a tough defensive team. They play Dallas again, New Orleans, Tennessee. So his numbers should progress. I don't think that he puts up 30 points, but I think that he clearly isn't in the same level that Lamar's in. So getting Aaron Jones is probably a good thing, because my guess, like I said just a second ago, is the fact that you probably need a running back. So I think he did good. I think Jaden Daniels will give you my hope. Okay, because I can't predict the future, but my hope is that Jaden Daniels gives you 20 or more points, or at least on average 20 or more points every week from now to the rest of the year. So I think you should do well with him. You're not going to, the chances of you getting 30 points with Daniels are lower than obviously Lamar, because Lamar's done it 2 or 3 times. But getting consistently 20 points, you're still going to win some games. And the fact that you probably need a running back and you got Jones is a good thing too. So I would say that you won. I think you probably filled the need, and you probably traded with someone who really wanted a quarterback. So, yeah. I mean, I just think though that when you can get a superstar like Lamar, it's a great thing. But I understand. My guess is the running back situation. So, all right, CBC Mexico traded away ETN. Good job, Gesicki and Moore, and got Brian Robinson. Yep, not bad. Let's check on Brian Robinson's health real quick, because he hasn't played the last 2 games, and he's really been able to give Eckler a lot. You might have given up. Well, ETN has no value. Gesicki's a tight end. I'm assuming CBC Mexico that you already have a decent tight end, and DJ Moore has no value. So basically, for 2 guys that you probably would have dropped, you traded Gesicki for Brian Robinson. So good job there. Now, he's been injured the last 2 games. I think he got injured 3 games ago. But when Brian Robinson plays, he's almost, he got 8.1 his last game that he played. Hey, Milltown, how are you? He got 8.1, 13, 13, 18, 10, 14, 16. So you can kind of pencil him in at 13 points per week. He's out with a hamstring. Obviously, that's a bad injury for a running back. He was limited at practice on Monday. It is, as usual, last week, but after 2 straight weeks of limited questionable, it's hard to believe Robinson will be a go against the Eagles unless the Commanders just steadfastly believe that the game is so important that Robinson must play. Austin Eckler would get the majority of the work if Robinson misses a 3rd straight game. All right, so it looks like if you can pick up maybe Austin Eckler, that there's a good chance Robinson will not play a 3rd game in a row. So that would be my advice. If you can, if you need a running back, you might want to pick up Eckler, because in Robinson's absence, he's actually been doing very well. I actually need to make a note of that. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of all this, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta think about that. I mean, I have Brian Robinson on my team. I have 3 teams. There's a couple teams that I have that, they are really not very good. Like, I have just like marginal players. I'm just trying to chisel anything to get points. I think I'm in 1st, 3rd, and like 5th or something like that. So the one team is, oh my God, it was decimated with injuries and all this kind of stuff. So, but that happens. Hey, that happens to everybody. So you got to fill in, and my team that's in 1st place doesn't really have a quarterback. I have Stafford and Darnold as my quarterbacks, and I don't love what they've been doing, although Stafford's actually headed up, but they're not elite in any regard. So, all right, we are all caught up on gifting. So if you follow me on this chat, okay, I'm getting a lot of people. Okay, what should I do with CD? Well, he's not going to have much value with Rush at the quarterback, but it sounds like Dak is out for 6 to 8 weeks. So you might want to trade him or stay put with him for a while. You might want to bench him and see if he can go up and improve his game. That would be great for you, Potato Juice. Hey, man, Kupp or Hill tonight? Okay, against the wide receivers, Dolphins are number 1. Against wide receivers, the Rams are 27. I would say Hill. I'm expecting, I don't know who's going to win. I mean, I'm not going to go that far into this, but I think Tyreek and to a lesser extent, Waddle should have good games. Tua should have a good game. The Rams defense, points wise for wide receivers, is not very good. Plus, the Rams against quarterbacks, they're 25th out of 32 teams. So they're not good with quarterback numbers either. The Dolphins, on the other hand, quarterbacks, so like Stafford, they're number 2. So they're tough against quarterbacks. All right, let me just rip this out. I'll reuse that. All right. So we are all caught up on gifts. I'm on YouTube for a second. So I would go with Tyreek Hill tonight. I have CD, Amon-Ra, Terry, Puka, and Brown, Mixon, and Saquon. Who should go with CD for Bijan? You're getting greedy. Probably. Well, it depends on what they want. You could either put maybe Brown or Mixon. In my mind, you could do CD and Mixon and get Bijan. You could go Brown and CD, or if you didn't want to do that, you could maybe go Terry and CD, and I think they're a little bit lesser. Thank you, Andrew, for the roses. I'll look and see if you had additional questions, but thank you for that. Yeah, I'd try CD and Terry at a lower level. Then you might have to go, if they don't like that, if they want a running back, maybe CD and Mixon. Then my next would be, if you went back to 2 wide receivers, if they need wide receivers, the other person you're trading with, you might want to go to either Puka, depending upon what he does tonight. He might be hot. He might have a good game and you can flip him, or Brown. But you have a pretty good wide receiver crew. Amon-Ra and, Amon-Ra and Puka and Brown would be great, or Amon-Ra, Terry would be pretty good. Okay, another gross. I got to get somebody to be a moderator when I'm on. All right, we have a ton of people on TikTok. Andrew, okay, what do you do, Jamar Chase and Breece for AJ Brown and CMC? Well, if you have Jamar Chase, and I can't remember if you said that or not, someone I think was saying that earlier in the chat. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. We're not even at 1,000 on TikTok. And don't forget to do that on YouTube. Subscribe to me. Don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube and follow me on TikTok so you know when I'm live. I pretty much go live. I went like 12 days in a row, but I took yesterday off because I was doing some other things and I just wanted to watch the game. All right, Andrew, would you do Jamar Chase and Breece for AJ Brown and CMC? Probably, because Breece has been very inconsistent, and CMC I do think was a little limited yesterday. So his number, I think he got like 13.9 or 0.7 yesterday. So I think his numbers will go up. AJ Brown is a solid. Now, AJ Brown's probably not going to put up 50 points or 49.9 like Jamar Chase did. Jamar Chase probably is not going to put up 49.9 again. But I think it's CMC is a big improvement over Breece, like a big improvement. And Chase is probably considered a little bit better than AJ Brown, although Brown puts up pretty good numbers. But you got to remember the one thing about Chase is, and I'm just going to look this up for you. Well, and I guess it doesn't matter if you're getting rid of him. Let's look up AJ Brown then. I was just going to say Chase has not been the most consistent person over the last 4 weeks. I know he had a big game. I understand that. Okay, here's the bad news about AJ Brown. The last 4 weeks, he's had 17, 10.9, 4.6, and 13. He's only gotten over 13 2 of the last 4 weeks. Now, if you go back 5 weeks, it's 3 of the last 5 weeks. So that's not too bad. Last 5 weeks, 20, 17, 10.9, 4.6, 13.4. And he only had 4.6 against Jacksonville, which I don't know. I guess I would have to go back and try to figure that out. So they go up against Carolina, Washington. They go up against Dallas again. Baltimore, they go up against, but you can pass on Baltimore. The Rams aren't too good against. The Rams defense isn't very good against wide receivers. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good trade. I think getting CMC will help your cause, and I think Ja'Marr Chase, you're not going to lose as much as you possibly think, because that offense in Cincinnati does not, like, I know everybody's talking about Ja'Marr Chase, but if you look at it, the last 5 weeks, 9.7, 15, 15, 7.8, and 49.9. Now, 6 weeks ago, he had 36 points. Then he had 16, 26. He started the season when Cincinnati was so bad at 9-5. I would like, if Ja'Marr Chase had less 36 and 49 points and more 13 or higher weeks, that would be really, really good to advocate. But remember, getting rid of Chase and getting Brown, you're losing something, but it seems like recently they're both a little inconsistent when it comes to points. So, but Ja'Marr Chase obviously gets a lot more points. So I'm not gonna deny that. But they're not. Neither one of them are the most consistent receivers at this point. But CMC should be good to go, and Breece is highly inconsistent. So I think it's a good trade if you're getting AJ Brown and CMC. Hey, your mom's here. Pick up. Okay. CBC Mexico. Pick up Stafford for Darnold, or hold Darnold and Kirk. Well, Darnold, I wanted to just throw through the. I don't want to get in trouble here, but Darnold, totally. I have him on one of my teams. Actually, it's the team that's in first place. I have him and Stafford as the quarterbacks. And, he had 9.44 points. My thing is, and in that league, there are not a lot of free agent quarterbacks that you can get easily, like a free agent or waiver wire kind of stuff, because everybody is really into fantasy. Some teams have 3 quarterbacks and they're holding them, apparently. I don't know. Maybe I should try to work up a trade, but they always want more. Everybody always wants a little bit more to make the trade go round. So I don't think Sam Darnold puts up enough good points week in and week out. He was doing it earlier in the year. He started the season 15, 20, 23, 21. Then he dropped down to 5, 17, 18, 21, 9.4. So in the last 4 weeks, he's only gone over 19 points once. And I hate that. I hate the thought of that. But I think Stafford's moving up in that direction. That's one reason why I would say, yeah, I think you can do that. I think with Puka and Cooper coming back, that Stafford's going to put up better numbers. All right. I think we're all caught up on gifting. I got to go back to your mom. I know that they had a question. Baja Blast RL. I also was wondering, who out of them would you give up for AJ Brown, who you are talking about? Huh? I have CD, Amon-Ra, Puka, and Brown, Mixon and Saquon. Who should go with CD for Bijan? I also was wondering, who out of them would you give up? I thought you had AJ Brown. For AJ Brown, who you are talking about? I don't, Baja Blast, if you're still there. I thought you say you have Brown. I have CD, Amon-Ra, Terry, Puka, and Brown, Mixon and Saquon. Who should I go with CD for Bijan? You want to trade for Bijan? I said you might want to try Mixon if they want a running back. You might want to try you could start lower with Terry, or a bigger name Brown next with CD if they want wide receivers. So I'm not sure about your second question, though. I'm not at all. I'm never trying to belittle anyone or be mean. Who would you give up for AJ Brown? I think I. Who would I give up for AJ Brown? You might maybe Josh Jacobs, the running back, if that's what you need. Would I give up another wide receiver? I mean, I wouldn't do that. I would try to, I would probably trade you a running back, like I said, like Josh Jacobs, maybe Kenneth Walker, maybe. It just depends on how needy I am for a wide receiver. Maybe Rashad White, maybe with Tampa Bay. I think he puts up decent points and he catches the ball out of the backfield. All right, we are all caught up on gifting, so I'm going to read people. So unless you want to give me a flower, which costs 1 coin, which is 1 penny, and you move to the front of the line, that's your golden ticket. I would be reading your question right now. Unless you want to do that, I'm going to read from people who followed me on this chat or this live, I guess I should say, or have gifted me in the past. I'm going to go with your mom because I just love the name. Makes me laugh. Should I pick up Demarcus Robinson for stash? Okay. Now I know that I made a video about Demarcus Robinson like last week. I'm sure many people on here haven't seen it, but I post videos as well as do live streams. Okay. And I've been doing a lot about fantasy. Before that, I used to do sort of quirky, weird stories that related to sports. But Demarcus Robinson, you can do that if you have room, your mom, on your bench. The reason why you might want to do that is like if Puka or Cooper get hurt, Demarcus could obviously step in like he has over the last couple of weeks and put up decent numbers. I would say that, probably on other teams, Demarcus could be easily a number one, easily a number two, possibly a number one, depending upon the team you put him on. I mean, if Demarcus Robinson was with Tampa Bay right now, they wouldn't miss a beat with Godwin and Evans out, I mean, as long as him and Baker get along, but you know what I'm saying, talent wise. So I think Demarcus could be one of those names. Like if you're in a keeper league, I know a lot of people aren't in keeper leagues, or they have it's a legend league or something. They call it something else a lot of times, but it's where you keep the players year after year. He's someone you could put on your bench now. Putting him on your bench now, you're just, which you can do, which I have no problem with, your mom. You can do that, and it makes a lot of sense. But just know that he might not put up many numbers as long as Puka and Cooper are healthy. Okay, and he stays at like a number 3. But yeah, I mean, if one of those guys gets hurt, you can put him in and feel good about that. So I think it's a good move, honestly. Should I pick? Oh, all right, let's see. Am I not getting are things getting filtered out? Oh, thank you, CBC Mexico. All right, we're all caught up on gifting. So if you want your question answered, you can send me a gift that moves you to the front of the line. It's like a golden ticket, or you can follow me like Nate Pierce just did. Nate Pierce, what's your question? So we're caught up on gifting. I'm going to see if Nate has a question here. I don't see it yet, Nate, but that doesn't mean anything. Could mean one of 3 things. You didn't really have a question, I didn't see it, or you were filtered out by TikTok. Okay, so if you follow me, which is free right now, since we're caught up in gifting. Okay, Nate Pierce, yeah, that was the one I was looking for, right? Oh, here we go. Puka scoring 25 tonight. Well, the Dolphins wide receiver defense is number 1 in the NFL. Now, I know that they have, with Puka and Cooper, where do you put your attention? I think Puka or Kupp get 15. Okay. I think the other guy might get 10. I don't see it. Let me see what the knowledge I have here. What little knowledge I have. The Dolphins give up 15.3 points to wide receivers on average per game. So that's 15.3. And remember, in a 10-team fantasy league, you want your wide receiver and running backs to get at least 13 or more points, and your flex to get 13 or more points. That's the little recipe that I come up with. Quarterbacks over 19 or higher, Wide receivers, running back, flex, 13 or higher. Defense, kicker, 10 or higher. Tight end, 7 or higher. That's sort of my little formula for a quality fantasy team. All right. And the Dolphins only give up 15.3 points to wide receivers. Now, I'm sure they've gone against teams that have had 2 really good wide receivers. I can actually take a look at that unless we have any. Did we get any roses? Okay. I'm just going to look this up real quick about the Dolphins. All right. Let's see who they've played. I know I tend to really enjoy the analytics of this and figuring out. Okay, so you look at Miami. Let's just look at recently. Okay, Arizona, no. Buffalo. Okay. So they played Buffalo. Okay. Was everybody injured though last week with Buffalo? Back of the right wrist. Oh God. Why is all this stuff on tonight on YouTube so weird? Cooper Rush has been benched for Trey Lance. Okay, that's great information, Nathaniel. Thank you for that. Earlier I saw that he was not going to be benched and that he will start. So that's breaking news. Breaking news. Nathaniel broke a story. Cooper Rush of the Dallas Cowboys, the backup quarterback, has been benched for Trey Lance, according to Nathaniel. Now, if this is wrong, we're all gonna, say mean things about Nathaniel. Okay, I don't think Buffalo is healthy though. That's my only concern. Arizona doesn't have a 2-headed monster. Wow. Seattle, maybe? Boy. Let me see what they did. Let me look up Keon Coleman. See what he did. Because unlike Amari Cooper, he's been on the Bills all year. Okay, so against Miami, he didn't really play. The second time against Miami, he had 4.6 points. Oh, God. Let's look at Shakir. What I'm trying to do is see how Miami did against a team that has 2 really good receivers. He gave up 8. Yeah, it could be a tough night for the Rams and their receiving core. It should be a good night for Kyren, though, with the Rams. So maybe if they can get Kyren going early, it'll open up their passing game a little bit more because the Rams are 20, they're 15th against the run. Wait. Yeah, they're 15th against the run. And the Dolphins are number 1 against wide receivers and number 28 against the run. So Kyren can run. The wide receivers might have a problem. They might have to establish the run game, the Rams, that is, early on. So it opens up the passing game because it looks like they do a good job against teams and multiple wide receivers. All right, let's see here. Don't forget, let me do a quick reset. If you're on YouTube, and Antonio Lopez, I'll get to you next. Don't forget to hit like on both YouTube and TikTok and Twitch if you're on there. Don't forget to hit follow on TikTok. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube and Twitch. I don't have a huge presence on Twitch, but we did have some questions earlier tonight from Twitch folks. And don't forget to keep hitting that like button. I know you can't do that on YouTube, but definitely on TikTok. We're only at 1,200 likes, which is lower than usual. All right. Antonio Lopez says or asks, should I trade Ja'Marr Chase for Puka and Walker PPR? I wouldn't do it, but I'm 4-6, and Chase Brown and Ja'Marr Chase will both be on bye in week 12. If I win out, I'm in. If I lose one, I have a shot. Okay, Puka and Walker. I wouldn't do it, but I'm 4-6, and Chase Brown and Ja'Marr Chase. Well, look, I think it's great. And that's the other thing I want to remind everybody who's out there in your fantasy. Remember, try to figure out when all of the buys are so you don't get sort of stuck like Antonio's talking about. I think it was my son for last week or this coming week had two of his best wide receivers or running backs were on a bye the same week. And I'm like, you got to do something about that. You got to pick somebody up, and you might have to put somebody, use somebody from your bench, but you got to plan those things out. So I think Antonio's comment brings to light, planning weeks in advance. I know that week 11 and I know that week 12 has a good number of buys, and I know week 14 has a good number of buys. So don't forget that week 12, week 14, look at the buys on your players, because I don't want you to get kind of stuck. Okay, trading Ja'Marr Chase for Puka and Walker, I wouldn't do it. Well, if you're doing it just to do it, but you have to win out, so you have to get talent for it. So I understand that. It sounds like you don't have talent to fill in otherwise. So you don't have a lot of choice is what it sounds like. 4 and 6 and Chase Brown and Ja'Marr Chase. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, Puka should put up good numbers. He's probably not going to have numbers like Chase because he shares so many of the targets with Cooper, but he'll put up strong numbers moving forward as long as he doesn't punch anybody. I've been saying that all week. And then with Walker, you're getting a solid running back. So, yeah, I would do that. I would do that going in because you don't want to get caught with those two guys out of your lineup. So, yeah, good idea. You have time, but I don't have backups at running back. Yeah, then you have to do it, Antonio. Sometimes, you have to make a call sometimes that isn't, that doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't make sense, but it isn't the strongest idea, but you're doing it. The other thing too is, and I'm just think about this for a second. When you have two players on the same team that isn't like a kicker or the defense or whatever it might be, but when you have like a quarterback and a receiver or running back and a wide receiver like you have here, if that team lays an egg for that game, if Burrow plays like he did in week 1 or 2, those guys aren't going to put up big numbers. It can work for you and it can work against you. If they have a really good game, everybody's numbers look good. If they have a really bad game, all the numbers look bad. I don't like that. Now, years ago in the league, I was a little over cocky, if you will, a little overconfident, and I had Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison Sr. So when they scored a touchdown, I think back then, this is a while ago, obviously. I think back then, passing touchdowns were still 6 points. Maybe they were 4, but every time they scored a touchdown, and they scored, Harrison would score a touchdown every week at least. So I was getting at least 10 points every time they scored a touchdown. So there's a good thing about it, but when they didn't do so well, but thankfully, knock on wood, it was one of those MVP years, I think, for Peyton. So he did really well that year. All right. So we are all kind of caught. Okay. Calvo asked, what's up, man? Hey, man, what's up? Stafford or Tua tonight? Well, here's the deal. I think the Dolphins against wide receivers are number 1 in the NFL. They give up the lowest number of points to wide receivers, which means they're tough on the pass. Okay, now that's not exclusively, because I'm not looking tight ends into that. But the Rams are 27th. So I would go Tua tonight. I think Tua and Tyreek should have good games. I'm not saying that they're going to score 49 points, both of them, but one could have 35, the other one could have 25. They could do very well. It could be sort of their breakout game of the year, because they really haven't had one since Tua came back. Not Tyreek and Tua. Their numbers haven't been good. Achan's numbers have been good, but not Tyreek's, and Tua's haven't been that great. All right. So a quick reset. I know we our numbers were getting low and then we're going back up. All right. Don't forget to hit that like, whether you're on YouTube or you're on TikTok, especially on TikTok, because you can just keep pressing it. We're 1,300. Let's try to get that up to well over 1,500, 2,000 even. Also, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to me on YouTube. That way you know when I'm on live, or subscribe and follow on Twitch. I don't have a huge presence on Twitch, but I figure I might as well go out there. And we did have 2 questions tonight from Twitch. Right now, I believe we're all caught up on chat or on GIFs. On TikTok, if you have, because there's always so many people on TikTok, to stand out, to get your golden ticket, to move to the front of the line, you can send me a gift. It can be 1 rose, which costs 1 coin, which is 1 penny. So I'm not asking you to not eat for the next day and a half or anything even close to that. Literally 1 penny moves you to the front of the line. And then if we're caught up on gifts like we are right now, and nobody wants to gift to move to the front of the line, I'll read your question right now. But if nobody's doing that, I will then go to people who have either gifted me in the past or people who followed me tonight, which I can see because I do this all on my phone. And as some of you probably have never heard me complain, Evan followed me. Okay. Evan, bench 1, AJ Brown, Gibbs, Collins. Well, let's see. Obviously, you're talking about the week coming up. So let's see. AJ Brown and Philly play Thursday night against Washington. Washington against passing is number 11. Let me just make sure I'm looking at wide receivers. Yeah. This is Brown. So number 11. So that could be a little tough for Hurts and AJ. Passing or wide receiver. Okay. Then let's look up Gibbs. The Detroit plays Jacksonville. Okay. Well, let me look up Jacksonville. I'm sure they're not too good. Let's see. I could be wrong. Uh-oh. The Jags. Come on. Jags are 26. So you can start Gibbs. Okay. Let me look up Collins. The only thing now is, and I hate, Collins goes up against Dallas. Oy. Oh boy, okay. Dallas is 22nd against wide receivers. Okay, so AJ has probably the toughest matchup. The other 2 play defenses in those positions, running back and wide receiver, in the 20s. They have more favorable matchups. The only caveat with Collins right now is, obviously, Evan, he didn't play last game. So what that says to me is, even if he plays this next game, this coming week, he might be limited a little bit. So I would right now say Gibbs and Collins, but you have to look at those little note cards behind their names and see what they say about Collins. Sometimes they will say like, oh, Collins, might be limited, or he might not even play again. Like, I'm just throwing that out there. He may not even play, and that might obviously not be the greatest news you've ever heard. So you'll have to check that. It's a little too early for me to give you a definitive answer about Collins. Obviously, we won't know till Thursday. Well, yeah, they play Monday. Probably Friday or Saturday, you'll have a good answer, because usually Saturday they have some sort of practice if they play on Monday night. But Gibbs and Collins will know a lot more Thursday, Friday. I would say, based on matchups, Gibbs and Collins I would start. Although, if you hear anything, or if you want to join, make sure you follow me so you know when I'm on. You can ask again, when is Collins going to, if Collins is going to be limited in any games, and I can check that out for you. So, but those would be the 2 names I would have right now. If obviously Collins can't go, you have no other choice but to start AJ Brown. All right, we are caught up on gifting, I believe. So all you have to do is send like 1 rose. If you follow me or you've gifted in the past on TikTok, I will read your questions. Otherwise, I'll just go to, all right, Tyrone Goons. Yes, he has. Joe Mixon or Jamar Gibbs rest of the season? Well, let me look them both up and see who they have to play the rest of the season. And with Nico back, it'll probably help Mixon and vice versa. So, all right. Mixon has Dallas, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Miami. Miami against the run is not so good, 28th. Kansas City's very good against the run, and Baltimore's very good against the run. So week 16 and 17, Mixon goes up against Kansas City and Baltimore. Hey, Andrew, thank you. I will look for another question from you and read that, or maybe this is a different Andrew because there's probably a lot of people named Andrew. So the only thing bad about Mixon is he goes against Dallas, Tennessee, Jacksonville. Those 3 games are great. Miami against the run is not too great. But then he goes up against Kansas City and Baltimore, who are in the top 5 against running backs. And that's week 16 and 17. And for a lot of people out there, that's like championship or at least the playoffs for you. And you might not have Joe Mixon at full strength based on matchup. You had Mixon, Jamar Gibbs. Let me look up Gibbs. Okay. So Gibbs has Jacksonville, Indianapolis. That's good. What's Chicago against the run? They're 20th, so they're not very good against the run, Chicago. Green Bay, I think Green Bay's tied for 9th. Buffalo, they're 25th. Chicago, oh, they play Chicago twice, huh? But the Bears are 20th. And then San Francisco. All right, 49ers and Green Bay are the toughest matchups. I would go with Gibbs just based on the fact that the last week 16 and 17, excuse me, he goes up against Chicago and San Francisco, who are ranked, between 20th and 32nd in the NFL, as opposed to Baltimore and Kansas City, who for Joe Mixon is week 16 and 17. And they're in the top 5 against running backs. So, all right, let's go. All right, we're all caught up on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like. We're at 2,500. Thank you, guys. Keep pressing that. If you're new to YouTube, hit that follow button or hit the subscribe button. Hit the follow button on TikTok so you know when I'm on. I go almost every day. I didn't go yesterday. I didn't go live yesterday. Andrew, trade Breece, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase for CMC, Garrett Wilson, and McBride. Okay. You're not allowed to chat. Oh, what? There's no more chats on YouTube? Did I do something? I just banned a user, put user. Huh. You can't chat on YouTube right now, Nathaniel? Just send me a text. Let me know for sure if that's the case. That's weird. Wow. Okay. I'll have to look at that in a second. All right. Trade Breece. Breece inconsistent. Taylor, I think, is good. Flacco's not really playing well. He's not really quarterbacking very well. Jamar Chase, big numbers. For CMC, should put up big numbers. Garrett Wilson does not put up big numbers, but good numbers. And then you're trading for a tight end. All right, so my guess is you need a tight end, because why would you throw in the tight end otherwise? Garrett Wilson is solid. You're trading 2 tight ends for 1 tight end. I'm assuming you have, and you might have told me this, Andrew. My guess is you have other tight ends that are good. What does it say? Yeah. You're saying that you can't chat. You just sent me a screenshot. Oh, what? That's weird. Okay. It says post a comment. I'll just say hi real quick. Sorry about this. Yeah, did you get that? It might be you, Nathaniel. Sorry, I don't mean it that way, but all right. Breece, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase. CMC, Jamar Chase sort of equal each other out. Garrett Wilson can give you decent numbers. I think Jonathan Taylor has a higher ceiling because Garrett Wilson has to deal with Adams on that team. And so his targets will be shared, and that offense is a disaster. Ugh. See, I guess the thing about it is it's the Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase aspect of this that I'm not in total love with. Jamar Chase for CMC, maybe Breece and Jamar Chase for CMC. I get. Obviously, you need a tight end. So really, this trade is Breece, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase for CMC, Garrett Wilson, and then McBride because he puts up decent numbers as a tight end. Yeah, I mean, I guess as long as you have other running backs that can put up good numbers, like Mixon, Walker, Kyren, whoever you have, if you have that, Andrew, it should be fine. Just know that Garrett Wilson, I just looked him up. Of course, I don't have him up on my screen because why would anything work out like that for me? Oh, it's you. Okay, Nathaniel, that's what I thought. All right, so let's just look up Wilson. I looked him up a little bit ago. Let's just look up Garrett Wilson. Yeah, he had 6 points, 25, 13, 10, 20. He's been doing well since they got Davante Adams, okay? 13, 25, 6. But they just look. They got to go up against Miami. Well, they have a favorable schedule, though. They go Indianapolis. They have a bye. So you got to know that he has a bye coming up. They go against Miami. Miami is good against wide receivers. That's their tough matchup. Then they go Jacksonville, the Rams, not so good against wide receivers. And then Buffalo. The Bills are number 4 against wide receivers, believe it or not. So in week 17, Garrett Wilson's going to have a tough task. And week 14 when they play Miami, because Miami's number 1. So those will be tough for Wilson. You figure CMC is going to have, a pretty good year, especially after the first game. I just think Jonathan Taylor, if they could get their quarterback situation, I'm sorry, I'm talking about an if come. If their quarterback plays well, Taylor will get more points. The points for Taylor will come. But they haven't shown that. Richardson and Flacco, I don't think, are that high-quality quarterback that they need. So, yeah, I think it's a good trade. Obviously, you need a tight end. I've said that 17 times, so it makes sense. So you'll fill that position up then. All right. We're all caught up on. I have Derrick Henry. Oh, well, you have Derrick Henry. Well, okay, you're fine then. So definitely make the trade. All right. So we are, let's see here. Let me just do a quick reset. I go live almost every day. Someone just follow me. Timo. No, that's not Timo. It's Noah. Noah just followed me. Noah, I'm just looking for your question, Noah. Right now, we're caught up on chats, or we're caught up on gifts, which means that, and I'm not seeing a question, Noah, so it's one of 3 things. I'll go back to Jake while I'm waiting. Trade Baker for Kyler or no? That's a great question. I mean, Baker is the one, was he number 1 in the NFL in passing yards or something ridiculous, or one of those big numbers? Let's see. Baker Mayfield had only 8.94 points against San Francisco. I still don't quite understand why he got blanked like that. But, he pretty much is over 20 points every week. He only got 18 against Kansas City, and he got 8.94 the week before. He might be running out of options. Otten only had 6 points, the tight end. So Mayfield might be running out of options while they wait for Evans to get back, and well, they have a bye, and that's going to help them because maybe Evans gets back then, and then Jalen McMillan will be healthy. They have the Giants, Carolina, Vegas, Chargers will be tough. They have Dallas and Carolina. They play Carolina twice. They actually have a favorable schedule outside of maybe the Chargers, I'm guessing. Chargers are 8 against quarterbacks. So that's going to be tough. Carolina, though, they play twice, and they are okay. They're 23rd, so not great. Giants and quarterbacks. Let's look that up. The G-men. Every time I see the Packers G, yeah, the Giants are 21st. So with this trade, Baker could put up decent numbers. Right now, he's sort of had a tough road, but he is in a bye this week. So that could be a really good thing after the bye, that people get a little healthier. He actually has people to throw to, and they play Carolina twice. That's going to help him out a lot. Let me look up Kyler real quick and his schedule. I know he had some good numbers. He had 28-4 against Chicago, 22, 21, 11. Yeah, I mean, he's putting up some points. He's had 28 twice this year. He's in the last 4 weeks, he's gotten over 20 points 3 of the 4 times. He's gotten out of 10 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's gotten over 20 points 5 times, not quite as many as Mayfield. Seattle against quarterbacks, probably not that good, but let me see. Seahawks are 20th. They play Seattle twice. Minnesota against quarterbacks, that's probably, let's see. The Vikings are 25th. That's very favorable to Murray. They play Seattle twice, Minnesota. Let's see, New England, the Pats, 13th. So not great. New England, they play, like I said. Oh, no, Carolina. Carolina's not good. Panthers. And then the Rams, quarterback. Yeah, the more favorable schedule moving forward, Jake, is for Kyler. So if you want to make that trade, I think you can make it. Now, it's not leaps and bounds like, Kyler's going to start scoring 30 every week and Baker's going to be stuck at under 20. It's not going to be like that. It'll probably be like Kyler gets 25, Baker gets 22, Kyler gets 24, Baker gets 23. Kyler gets 21, Baker gets 20. It'll probably be like that. But Kyler does have a more favorable schedule the rest of the year. I think that offense is playing better. I like the fact that Baker can win with it, or Baker can run as well. But, I think Kyler's getting more used to that. He's not rushing his throws anymore. He's not trying to make something happen. He's taking his time and making the better decisions. Hold on, I got to do a puzzle here. TikTok makes me do a puzzle if I'm on too long. So Jake, I think it's fine. I think based on the rest of the year, it's a good trade. It's a smart trade, really. They have a very solid running group. Well, they have a very solid runner with Connor. I think hopefully Harrison can be a little bit more regular in the offense. Hey, Alex Neri, you will be next. Thank you. That's all it takes, guys, is one rose and you move to the front of the line. So thank you. Just got Alex Neri. Oh, you Josh Allen as your starter. Well, then, yeah. I mean, that way, if something happens to Josh, you got a really good backup. But I guess in some ways, it's a trade that you don't have to make because you're just talking about backups. Okay, Alex. What's Alex's question? But thank you for all that, Jake. Thank you for following. All right, Alex, I am not seeing. You guys got to tell me when I'm off screen here. All right, let's try to get to 3,000 likes on TikTok. We're only at 2,800. Let's just get to 3,000. All right, Alex, I'm not seeing a question, which can happen. Oh, here we go. Chase Mooney Swift for Nico Evans Irving. Chase Mooney, Swift. Are you talking Jamar Chase or Chase Brown? I'm assuming you mean Jamar Chase because you're giving everybody's last name. So Jamar Chase, Mooney, Swift for Nico. Evans. The one thing about Evans is, do we know when he'll be back? And then the unknown is, how long is it going to take him to sort of get his legs underneath him? What does it say? Evans hamstring said that he's optimistic that he'll be available because they have a bye this week. They're optimistic that he'll play in week 12. He's got a pretty favorable schedule outside of week 15 against the Chargers, but he ends the seasons against Dallas and against Carolina, and they're not great. Panthers are 17. Cowboys, what are the Cowboys? Cowboys are tied for 22nd, so not too bad. Bucky Irving for Swift. If you look at the Chicago offense, it's in disarray. Swift didn't put up the 18 points that he had been putting up for weeks before that. Irving, you know what? I didn't even check his points, but I'm sure he actually did. Well, let's see before I sound like a moron. I know his number was called a lot yesterday. I remember hearing that. Yeah, it's 16.6, 16.2. He had 14 yards receiving. He had a touchdown and 73 yards rushing. So I would kind of expect to see that moving forward. It might change a little bit when Evans comes back, though. And like I've said before, Alex, my only fear with this one is if you have Evans and Irving starting the same game, what if, God forbid, Baker gets hurt? What if Baker has a bad game? Then Irving and Evans's numbers might be really down. And as injury prone as that team is, I would worry about that and getting them. The other thing about Nico is I don't think it's a done deal that he plays this week. I think they're assuming he will, but we'll have to check that injury report as the week moves on. I really think Chase is in a really good offense. I don't think Houston's offense is in sync right now. I do tend to think, though, like Swift and Irving are probably, Swift's numbers are not going to go up right away, or he won't be as consistent as he was there in the middle of the season. Let me look up Mooney real quick. I don't know that I've looked him up tonight at all, so. He had 12.1, 17, 16. So he's been a little bit more consistent over the last few weeks. Really, Mooney and Evans, I kind of see as similar. But Evans's points might be better, actually, because he doesn't have to worry about targets being taken away by Godwin when he gets back. Swift is he's probably closer to Irving than I wanted to admit, because there for a while he was putting up 18.9, 19 points 3 or 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Yeah, the chase for Nico, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think Stroud, I know Stroud is very talented. I like CJ Stroud, don't get me wrong. But if you look at Stroud right now, I know I'm spending a long time on this, guys, but this is just the way my brain works. I apologize for that. This is Stroud's last 4 games, and this is why I say this: 5, 12, 11.5, 11.78. In a 10-team league, I haven't said this in a while, so I can say it now. In a 10-team league, you want your quarterback to have 19 or more points. He's gotten to 19 or more points 0 times in 4 weeks. 0 times in 4 weeks. He's thrown for, and I'm assuming maybe he got injured in this game, but he did have a bad game against Green Bay. I don't know that he was injured, but he only had 86 yards passing. Next game, he had 285. That's good. He had 1 touchdown. Next game, 191. not so great. I mean, maybe average. He had 231, one touchdown, two interceptions. He's only thrown for two touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. Now, you could make the argument, Alex, that once Nico gets back, Stroud will start playing better. Maybe Dell was a little inconsistent. Maybe he didn't sync with Dell. Maybe when Nico comes back, Stroud will, recapture the glory he had. Okay. But it's hard to build back up that confidence. And his lack of quality play over the last 4 weeks, and even if you go back even farther, this is his year, 18.6. So I'll just round up and say he got 19 week 1, 14, 11, 23.5. So let's say 2 weeks, 16.9, 19.3. So he got 19 or higher, but he's only got 19 or higher 3 of 10 weeks. 3 of 10 weeks. He wasn't even getting when Nico was around, like in week 2, or I think Nico was around week 1, I know, week 2, maybe week 3, he had 18, 14, and 11. He only, he wasn't putting up massive numbers. He did have a lot more yards passing though in week 4 and 5. So I'm just afraid of Nico. Is Nico going to make Stroud better, or is Stroud going to bring down Nico? That would be my worry. And Chase and Burrow are like this. They're in sync. And yes, Chase can put up 49 points. He can put up 9 points. But boy, when he puts up 49 points, you're not going to lose that week. He's put up 49 and like 36 this year. So, I mean, maybe if you did like Evans and Irving for Mooney and Swift, I would feel better about the trade. But I guess at the end of the day, it's a decision you have to make. I just think there's some unknowns with Nico, and there's no unknowns with Ja'Marr Chase. All right, let's see here. We are all caught up on gifting tonight, everybody. So, you're just trying to get rid of Swift. Okay. Well, then maybe what I'm saying is maybe you keep Chase and you do Mooney and Swift for Evans and White. No, not White. Irving. Maybe you make it a 2 for 2 rather than a 3 for 3 deal, Alex. Just a thought. That way you keep Chase in the fold. All right. Let's see. We're all caught up on gifting. So if you want to send a rose right now, you'll jump to the front of the line. It costs 1 coin. That's 1 penny. If you follow me, you'll be moved up to the line because we're all caught up on gifting. Or if you've given me, or if you've gifted in the past, you move up. I don't see a lot of people who have. Okay. Liam has followed the creator. Cupper Hill need 8.2. I would go Hill. Here's the thing. Everything is in alignment for Hill, and the Rams against quarterbacks are 25th worst in the NFL. Okay. The Rams against wide receiver are 27th worst in the NFL. On paper, using the analytics, Tua as a quarterback, Rams ranked 25th against quarterbacks. Puka, whoever you want, Hill. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Puka. Hill being a wide receiver for Miami, and the Rams are ranked 27th. It looks like this sets up to be possibly a big night for Tyreek. Okay. And on the flip, just to let you know, Liam, and you probably didn't hear me say this, I said it much earlier before you got on to a few people. The Dolphins are number 1 against wide receivers from a defensive standpoint, meaning they give up the lowest number of points to wide receivers in the NFL. So what that means is I know that they have a very strong 2-headed monster receivers with Puka and Kupp. So that's probably going to, maybe hurt their average a little bit, having to deal with 2 really good wide receivers. but they know how to deal with wide receivers. They're number one in the NFL. So, Kupp maybe Kupp doesn't get 15 points, maybe he gets 12. Tyreek, on the other hand, I think if Tua can play well and Tyreek can get past his 10 points he's had the last 2 weeks, he could have 15 or more points. Now I am someone who's relatively conservative with the number of points I throw out there, and I don't want to over excite you, let's say, about the number of points Tyreek could have. But on paper, this is a matchup designed to, it's Monday night. It's the only game everybody's going to watch, at one time. So it's one of those national audience, and Miami could just put on a show, and they could basically, it could be their coming out party or whatever the heck you want to call it. Like, oh my God, Tua was hurt, and now look at him tonight. Like, it's 37-4, whatever. I don't even know how you get the 2 safeties. All right. So I hope I helped with that. Liam, thanks for following. You're welcome. All right. Fred, who has gifted in the past. Tyjae Spears is better investment compared to Akers. Are you just saying that, or you're saying that you think Spears is better? He could be. I just put Akers up there because he was in my updates. Spears could be. Let me just look at them. I don't know that I've compared them before. Did I put Spears in here twice? I hope I didn't. Okay, Akers. So you look at Akers. Yeah. I mean, he only had 5.6 points the last 2 weeks. You look at Spears, he had 6 points. He's put up, they've had pretty close to the same season. Jeez. I mean, Akers has been getting, he played on 26 of the 84 snaps for Minnesota. He gets extra playing time when Aaron Jones, when he relieves Aaron Jones, or when Aaron Jones gets, well, in this case, Jones's ribs are sore. So there is a possibility that if Aaron Jones, and we don't know anything right now, but as the week moves on, we might hear that, like, Aaron Jones is going to be limited in the game, or maybe that he's out because of the sore ribs. I mean, honestly, I can't imagine playing running back, or I can't really imagine playing football having sore ribs. I had sore ribs playing softball. I didn't want to be out in the field, So that could be, Aaron Jones might be very limited the next game. That could move up Akers. You're probably right about in the long term, of Spears, it's probably there as a better investment. Yeah, but in the short term, Akers might get more playing time than Spears would this weekend. But we won't really know anything until like Thursday or Friday, probably. Because to be honest with you, that's when stuff comes down. We don't really hear much before that, unfortunately. I wish we did. All right, let's see. We're all caught up on our gifts. If you want to jump to the front of the line, you can send a rose or a lightning bolt. They're like 1 coin, which is 1 penny. Or if you've gifted in the past, or if you follow me, you can jump up in line as well, since we're caught up on gifting. I'll just do Luke's real quick. I don't know if Luke follows me or not, but because I do all this on my phone. Anyway, I traded Goff and Josh Jacobs for Hurts. Do I win? Probably. Hurts puts up between 20 and 30 points every week, pretty much. Goff obviously had a bad game, or a bad half at least, last game. He doesn't put up monstrous numbers. Meaning, when you start Goff, there's a good chance he actually hurts your team more than he helps you. And what I mean by that, let me just explain myself for anybody that might be new, is that in a 10-team fantasy league, which many of you are in, you want your quarterback to get 19 or more points. So in a 10-team league. So, when it goes, if you're in a 12-team league, maybe it's 17 or 18 or more points. If you're in a 14 league, it might be 16 or more points for your quarterback. It probably doesn't go down to 16, maybe 17 or 18 in a 14-team league. But I mean, Goff's last game was obviously not great. I mean, here's the thing. If you look at Goff over the last 5 games, he's had 25, 18.8. So I'll round up and say he at least got 19. Then he had 15.5, 9.6, 12.8. 15.5, 9.6, 12.8 is not going to get it done in a 10-team league. If your quarterback gets 12.8 points for that week, for that game, for whatever you want to call it, that matchup, you're behind 6.2 points. You got to make that up someplace else. You got to hope that, you have Jamar Chase scoring 49, or that you have CMC eventually scoring 26 or something to make up those points and maybe a little bit more. So that's why I think it's a good trade, because Goff has been, if anything, inconsistent. He had back-to-back over 20 weeks in weeks 4 and 5. He has not done that. Well, he actually had, I guess if you want to call it 3 weeks, he had 26, 25, and 18.8. So there was a 3-week stretch. Hey, Tyrone, thanks for joining, where he was probably at that 19 or over, and I'm rounding up there. But, he doesn't necessarily throw the ball a lot. He was 18 for 18 in one game where he had 26 points. 25, these are attempts, 25, 25, 15, 22, 30. One game he had 55. Wow. Okay. So he was throwing all the time then. But outside of the 55 game, he's only hit 30 passing attempts one other time this year. So Hurts is a guy you can start. You can keep him in the rest of the year and not worry about it. Josh Jacobs is relatively consistent with the Packers with his points, but Goff is very inconsistent. At best, I would think of Goff as a backup in a 10-team league. At best, he would be a backup, and that's iffy, because God forbid you start him and he gets 9 points. All right, we are Tyrone Brown. Who gonna score tonight? You have any idea? Oh, God. I think Tyreek should score. I think Achane should probably score. I think you're not gonna like this answer because it's sort of a no answer. I think Puka or Cooper will score. Maybe Cooper, because he's actually scored the last couple of games and Puka hasn't, although Puka was thrown out of the one game. I think Kyren will score. So I again, the Dolphins against wide receivers, they're number 1 in the NFL giving up the lowest amount of points. So Puka and Cooper Kupp might have a tough night. On the flip side, the Rams are 27th out of 32 against wide receivers. That's why I say this could be a really good night for Tyreek. I don't want to oversell it, but on paper, I'm just going to say this again. I can't make it any clearer. The Rams against quarterbacks are 25th in the NFL out of 32 teams, 25th worst against quarterbacks. Against wide receivers, they're 27th worst out of 32 teams. This looks like it could be a good game for Tyreek and Waddle. Putting up numbers that were used to them putting up last year more than, this year. So it could sort of be their game of the year, especially with, a national audience watching it. That's my expectations with them, Tyrone. All right, let's see. Don't forget to hit those likes. We're at 3,000 on TikTok. Let's try to see if we can't get up to, I don't know, 3,500. That would be great. 3,500 likes. Don't forget to hit follow. I go live nearly every day. That way, I'm on, and you can, if you have injury questions as the week goes on about some of these players, I can help you try to figure out who's injured, who's not, who's going to play, who's not, that kind of stuff. We are all caught up on gifting. I don't ask for a ton of gifts. I told my buddy, ain't nobody getting 3 touchdowns. I don't think anybody's getting 3 touchdowns today. I mean, look, the likelihood that someone gets 3, hey, Sebastian gave a row. See, Sebastian, that's all it takes. And I'll get to you right after I get back to Tyrone, but I will. I told my buddy, ain't nobody getting 3 touchdowns. I can't predict 3 touchdowns. That's out of my. I think on paper Tyreek should get 1. He might get 2. I think the chances of him getting 3 is like 10%. That's unusual to begin with. How many people get 3 touchdowns like Ja'Marr Chase got? Not many, not at all. I would say that number is very low, possibly in the single digits when it comes to the NFL. It just doesn't happen. And 264 yards is ridiculously great. So, is Tyreek injured, Elver? Is he not playing? I don't think we're going to see too much of Odell Beckham, because why didn't we see him before? No, Tyreek's not injured. He's off the list. He's active for Monday night's game against the Rams. Let's see. Yeah, I think he should have a good game. I mean, he's active, so he should have a good game. His wrist is apparently okay, Elver. All right, let me get to Sebastian. Yeah, Elver, right now he's not listed as injured at all. He's not questionable. He's not on the injury report. He was. You're 100% right. But if you look him up right now, he's listed as active. He is off any sort of injury report. They reference the wrist, but he's not listed as questionable or doubtful. The injury report makes that distinction between questionable, doubtful, out, those kinds of things. He is not on the injury report tonight. He is listed as active, which means he will play. So he could have a wrist injury that, they don't talk much about, but my guess is, they'll probably give him a shot, tape it up, and he'll be able to go on adrenaline alone. All right. Sebastian. So I need 17 from Kupp. Do you think he gets it? Well, as I said earlier, Sebastian, you may not love this news, but the Dolphins against wide receivers are number 1 in the NFL as a team. They give up the lowest number of points to wide receivers in the NFL. And just so you know, that average per game is 15.3, which is obviously nearly 2 points lower than what you need. It's not to say that he can't do it. This is their average. So some games they might give up 25 total points against wide receivers. The next game they might give up 10. Okay. So with Cooper, Kupp, and Puka, they'll have their hands filled because they have to play defense on 2 really, really, really good wide receivers. So there's that. Okay. There's a chance that he does it. At best, I would say it's 50-50. At best, I would say it's 50-50 that Cooper Kupp gets the 17. And the reason why is the analytics are saying that they're going up against the best defense against wide receivers from a fantasy point perspective. Not, I'm not looking at this or that or all this. I'm saying pure fantasy points on average per game is 15.3. They also I haven't put it out there. They average, that's something different. They give up, I was looking to see if they gave up average yards receiving, but I don't have that information. I apologize. So yeah, I would say it's 50-50 at best, and it looks a little bleak because their average per game is 2 points lower than what you needed, which kind of stinks for you. But he could, Sebastian. He could. I don't want to ever rule that out. I don't want to look like a fool. I just think that it will be. Hey, Ryder, how are you? And thank you for the rose. I do think it'll be tough. I think he could get to 12. What I think is going to happen between those two is Cooper and Puka is one will get like 13 or 14 or 15. The other one will get 10 or 11 or 12 or 9 or 11 or 12. That's what I think's going to happen. I hate to have to split the middle. I think Stafford's going to find them the ball. I think they know how to get open, and because they're good, just like with Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson. Wilson still can put up good points, even though they got Davante Adams, because they can't double team one because they need to have quality defenders on both of them. So we'll see. I think it will be a tough test though. And then you got to say, like, since Cooper and Puka are not really like number 1 and 2-ish, there's almost like 1 and 1A or one, tied for first kind of thing. It's hard to pick who's going to have the better game fantasy points wise. Like, let's say that one of them does get to 17, but it's Puka. It could happen. That's the not so fun part of it, because that's almost a coin toss to see which one of them will have the better game too. All right, let's see. Ryder, Malik Neighbors, and Kyler, and Gesicki for Jordan Love, Debo, and Cade Otton. Oh, Ryder, are you giving up Malik Neighbors, Kyler, and Gesicki for Jordan Love, Debo, and Cade Otton? I wouldn't do that deal. If you're getting Jordan Love, Debo, and Cade Otton, I wouldn't do that deal unless there's some back history. Kyler is performing at a much higher level than Jordan Love, number 1. Malik Neighbors and Debo, I don't mind so much. They probably put up. Well, let me see what Debo did yesterday. I know he had some rushes yesterday, so his numbers are probably better than I'm assuming. Yeah, he had 10 points. He had 10. The last 2 games, Debo's had 10 points. Neighbors, I think, has had 10 points, or at least 2 and 3 weeks ago, he had 10 points, both games. Let's see here. Yeah, he had 7.8 last week, 10. So in some ways, Neighbors and Debo are a wash at this point, and I see that because since Neighbors came back from the injury, he has not had the numbers he had. And he was weeks 2 and 3, he put up 23, 24, and then week 4 he had 17. He hasn't even gotten into the teens. He hasn't gotten over 12 since he came back. Okay, I think that offense is a little off. So what I'm saying is Neighbors and Debo are very similar in the points that they put up. Kyler is doing much better than Love. Much, much, much better than Love. The last, 2 weeks ago, he had 4.76, but he's had 28, 4.76. I'm going backwards. 3 weeks ago, 22, 4 weeks ago, 21, then 11.96. You look at Love, and yes, I know that he was injured, I think, in his last game before the bye, but he's had 11.92, 6.74, 18.8, 26, 16.9. So in the last 5 weeks, he's only gotten to that 19 number twice, and that's rounding up the 18.8 and the 26. So Kyler's been much more consistent at a higher level. So if you're getting Love, in my mind, it's a step down right now, like a full step down from Kyler. And Gesicki for Cade Otton. Here's the thing about Cade Otton. He had 3 really good weeks. This past week, he got 6 points. My thought is, are teams now scheming so that Cade Otton doesn't beat them? Has the cat, so to speak, been let out of the bag, if you will? And I think that might be the case. And maybe he puts up numbers that are closer to Gesicki's. And they're on a bye, right? They're on a bye, I believe, Tampa Bay. So when he gets back, Evans might be there. So Evans might even take some of his targets away. I like Cade Otton. Don't get me wrong. I think I really like what he was doing. I'm just not sold on the fact that in 2 to 3 weeks, he's putting up numbers like a wide receiver would, as opposed to a tight end like he did this past week. I don't like that trade for sort of the unknown about Otton. I think Debo and Malik are kind of equal right now, inconsistent. Debo could actually, in a week or two, with CMC's growth on the team coming back from injury, put up bigger numbers because that might, pad his numbers a little bit because they're scheming against CMC, but then they throw to Debo kind of thing, and Debo even runs. Jordan Love, though, just doesn't have the numbers lately that Kyler Murray does. I mean, Murray, like I said, yes, 2 weeks ago he had 4, but 28, 4, 22, 21. Then he had 11.96, 25. But he seems to be getting stronger as the season's going on. He's not as consistent as I would like. I would like for that or not to be a 4.76. Maybe he got hurt. I want to say he might have gotten hurt against Chicago, and that's why he had such a low number there. But he did have 11.96 4 weeks. Nope, that's 5 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 of the 4 last weeks, he's gotten over 20 points. So I would not trade away Kyler unless you have like Lamar Jackson as your starter rider and you're just trading backups. But even then, I would rather have Kyler as my backup than I would Jordan Love. Plus, you got to remember, you might see this guy get into the playoffs or this team, is what I'm saying in essence. And who would you rather go against, Jordan Love or Kyler? I would rather go against Jordan Love in the playoffs. Air accepted it. I meant to decline. Oh, you accepted it? You already accepted it? Is there a way you can still like deny it or refute it or not do it? Yeah, right. Or you got to try to get out of that. Okay. Nathaniel on YouTube asks, don't forget, guys, to hit follow. Hit that, hit follow on TikTok, subscribe on YouTube, hit likes on both if you haven't already on YouTube. Hit the like button. We're at 4,300. Let's try to see if we can get the 5,000 likes. Definitely don't forget to hit follow. I go live about every day. So if you have questions about injury reports, I can help answer those. Nathaniel asks, what team do I think will win? It's a great question. I see it this way, honestly. I kind of want, on a personal side, I want Miami to win because it seems like they have been struggling all year. Because of the injury, and Tua has the story of all the concussions, and Tyreek has had, been a shell of himself, points wise at least. Maybe not talent wise because he hasn't changed talent wise probably, but hasn't been putting up the numbers. I'd like to see them break out. And I think that they, on paper, have a much better defense than the Rams. And I think the Rams have played some teams that, aren't so great against wide receivers, but Miami is. So it favors Miami. And I think someone like Tyreek and I think someone like Tua, again, on paper, should have really good nights. Maybe not 60 points between the two of them. Maybe it's, 35 points between the two of them, but they should have good nights. They should both get to, Tyreek should at least have 13 points, if not 13 to 16 points. I think Tua should have, at bare minimum, on paper, 20 points tonight. He could have 30 though, against this defense with the Rams and the wide receiver defense that they have. So, all right, let's see what we got here. We're all caught up on gifts. So if you're on TikTok and you have a question, all you have to do, rather than sending a gift, and all I ask, is it's one rose, one lightning bolt, or one coin. That's 1 penny. It's not a big, I'm not asking you to forget about dinner, or, don't buy. Hey, Jose's here. Hey, Jose, glad to have you on board, buddy. I'll look and see if you ever. All right, down by 10, but I got cup left. Am I getting the dub? Okay, something that I've been telling people several times. I see it like this, Jose. The Dolphins are number 1 against, or how do I put this? Number 1 against wide receiver defense, or defense against wide receivers. They give up the lowest amount of points against wide receivers. Having said that, though, I do think that Kupp or Puka one of them will probably be around 10 points. I think the other one might be around 13 points. You can't not, like, they're talented enough to know when to get open. So my guess is I would give you a 70% chance that Cup, because I think one of them will get at least 10 and, give or take a point maybe. And then the other one will get around 13 points, give or take a point. So I think, given that in your case, if one of the two gets a 10 and the other one gets a 13, you'll get those 10 points. Unless Stafford just can't get open. Now, against quarterbacks, the Rams are 25th. Against wide receivers, they're 27th, but I don't know why I'm bringing that up. Okay, the Dolphins against quarterbacks are number 2. Against wide receivers are number 1. So it could be a really long game for the Rams from a passing perspective. But the good thing about the Rams and the bad thing about the Dolphins is the Dolphins are also 28th against running backs. All right. So what that means is the Rams are going to have to establish, I believe, early their run game, and they have one of the best. I mean, they have probably the 4th best running back in the NFL, Kyren Williams, maybe the 5th. He's probably in the top 5, not the top 10, top 5. So they can probably establish their run game, which will open up their passes. And I don't think you're going to be able to keep Kupp and Puka down. Now, here's the thing, Jose, just one other thing to think about. There's a chance that Kupp and Puka, one of them maybe scores 15 and the other one scores like 3. Like, one has a totally ungreat night, if you will. Not that that's a word. And the other one has, a nice above average kind of day. That could be the case too, because of Miami's strong defense against quarterbacks and against wide receivers. But I think you probably have a 70% chance of them. They're professionals. They know how it is, and they'll help each other out in so much as Miami won't be able to put 2 people on either one of them. It's going to be single coverage probably, at times zone coverage, depending upon the read and all that. But for the most part, that's what it's going to be. So they'll be able to get open. They'll find a way. There'll be people up in all the boxes looking at that. They might not win the game. I think on paper, Miami wins. I think Tua should have a breakout night. I think Tyreek should have a breakout night. I think Waddle should double. He usually gets 6 points. He should have 12 at least tonight. I mean, Tyreek should be touching 15 to 20 as far as I'm concerned, but we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, I would give you a 70% chance to catch up on 10 points. No doubt about it. Well, I just hope that it goes 10 and 13, like I said, as opposed to 3 and 15. And so, yeah, thank you, Jose, for the roses. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you for your support, Jose. All right. Tyrone Goose is back, and he's gifted in the past. Mixon or Gibbs rest of season? Did you ask me? Somebody asked me this tonight. I went with Gibbs based on his schedule was a little bit better than Mixon's. Someone asked me the same question. I don't know. Sometimes I glitch out. Maybe I was glitching and you didn't hear me answer it. But, yeah, I would go with Gibbs based on schedule. Mixon's schedule is not horrible, but Gibbs is just a little bit better. All right. Let's see here. We're all caught up on gifts right now. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't already. Football. Yes, let's go. Tulsa top 10. Yes, you're right. Tulsa top 10. We're talking football. He's on YouTube. Don't forget to hit those likes. Let's try to get it up to 5,000 on TikTok. Also, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to follow on TikTok so you know when I'm live. I go live almost every day. I wasn't live yesterday. All right. Manny, no. Well, I'll just help Manny. Is Achane going to score 30? I don't think I can't predict that he scores 30. And the Rams against the runner are ranked 15th. So they're not total pushovers when it comes to the run. They're kind of pushovers when it comes to wide receivers. They're 27th, but against a running back, they're 15th. So I think Achane probably should get somewhere between 20 to 25. That's my guess, Manny. All right. Bib something followed me. I'm going to look and see if he or she has a question. I'm not seeing the question, which means one of three things. I missed it, he didn't send it, or TikTok filtered it out. Okay, who else has followed me? That's the easy way right now because we're all caught up on gifts. That's the easy way to get your questions read is to follow me. There was someone else. Somebody just followed me. Who was that? Vulcan? Yeah, Vulcan. Insane comeback from 112 with Kyren and Tyreek. Okay. Oh, you have Kyren and Tyreek. You're down by 112 now, Vulcan. I don't think they're going to get 112. I think Kyren could get 15 to 20. I think Tyreek should be like 16 to 22. I know those are big ranges, but I think he should be somewhere in there. I think Kyren, like I said, should be maybe a little bit lower, 13 to 16-ish in that area. In a 10-team league, I'm just going to say this again. In a 10-team league, you want your wide receivers and running backs and flex, obviously, to get you 13 or more points. You want your quarterback at 19 or more. You want your defense and your kicker at 10 or more. You want your tight end at 7 or over. And I think that gives you right around 100 points. If you can average that every week. So some weeks, I say 13, but your running back might get 18. You might get 20. You might get 17. And your quarterback might get way more than 19. You might get 33 or 35 or 27. So if you do that, if you follow that recipe in a 10-team league and you can adjust it in bigger leagues, like go down a point for every 2 teams in your league. So like for 12, it might be 18 or more for quarterbacks, 12 or more for wide receivers, running backs, and flex, and 9 or more for defense. If you do that, after 10 weeks, you should at least be 5-5. Now, the caveat is, the thing to remember is the fact that you might go up against someone who had Jamar Chase and got 49 points and doesn't really have much else of a team, and you lose anyway because basically one position got you probably half or a little close to half of all the points. So, yeah, I don't think Kyren and Tyreek get you 112. I think Tyreek could get you up to 25, maybe. I'm guessing more of a 17 to 20. And then Kyren gets you, like I said, 13 to 16. He might push 20. You might get 40 out of him. You might get 45 between the two of them, but I can't predict much more than 25 points for a running back or a wide receiver. They would just have to, I didn't predict Chase. I predicted that you can throw against Baltimore. I knew that because the analytics and the data tells me that, Baltimore is one of the worst teams to pass against. Like, you can get points, you can score against them when you throw the ball. It's just when you run that they're really tough. The Ravens. Did I know that he would get 3 points? Of course not. Or 3 touchdowns? Of course not. All right. C9. I'm just picking random people right now. If you want your questions asked, send me a gift. It can be a rose. That's 1 coin, 1 penny. You move to the front of the line. You'll be next. Okay. If you follow me, that's another way to get your questions moved up in line, so to speak. Or if you've gifted in the past. I don't see a lot of people who have gifted in the past, but okay. C9. I'm down 14 and I have Achane and my opponent has Tyreek. Who you got? Well, as I've said several times, I expect Tyreek to probably get at least 16 points tonight. I mean, if Tyreek doesn't get 16 points, he either gets injured during the game or that risk that he's been, the risk that's been bugging him is worse than they let on, in my mind. Okay. Because on paper, the Rams are 27th worst against wide receivers and 25th worst against quarterbacks. So Tua should be able to throw to Tyreek and Waddle. Okay. Achane, though, Now the Rams they're better against running backs. They're 15th, not 27th like they are against wide receivers. So I think Achane probably gets I think Achane gets it, 15, give or take 2. He could have a decent game, but I think Tua going to Tyreek and or Waddle is going to be a big thing tonight. And then there'll probably be some player we're not even thinking of, the tight end or somebody that'll catch 2 touchdown passes. You guys know how this is. It's every given Sunday. 2 teams meet and whatever you think might be thrown out the window immediately. But on paper, Tyreek and Tua should have a good game together. Definitely. And even Waddle and Tua. All right, C9, glad to have you on board tonight. Please follow everybody so you know when I'm live. Casey followed. Thank you for bringing that up, Casey. Where's your question, Casey? I'm happy to ask it. Remember, there's 3 reasons why I don't read your questions. I don't see them. You didn't have one, which is fine. Or TikTok filtered it out. Okay, Casey followed. I appreciate that. Did you ever? Okay, I think it's too big. What? Your question's too big? There's no question too big. Well, then chop it up in chunks, or I don't know. I can put you on live and you can ask the question. Did you see that? I think it's too big. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, Casey. Can you chop it up in a little chunk if it's too big? All right. Right now, we're all caught up on gifting. We don't have a lot of people on. I'm sure everybody's doing a live stream now. So you have Henry, Achane, all right, CMC. All right. Where are we going with this? I have Henry, Achane, CMC. I have CD. Sorry. He doesn't have much value probably for the rest of the year with Dak out 6 to 8 weeks. Alan's asking, who's a good trade target for me to shop around CD? Anybody that would be willing to trade with you at this point that doesn't follow the NFL. Tony followed me. All right. Hey, Tony. Let me see if Casey has a question. I have CD. You want me to figure out who to trade for, Casey? Because I don't see any other question from you. Okay, the thing about CD is you're going to have to trade into somebody who doesn't really follow the NFL that well. Okay, so there's that. Because if they do, they'll know that he doesn't have much value, number one. I know that sounds like kind of like used car salesman-y of me, but there's always 1 or 2 guys in every league that don't really follow the sport that you might be able to. They see the name CD Lamb, go, ooh, yeah, I'll take him, and you kind of pulled one over on them. So you got to find that guy or lady, and then sometimes what you might want to do is package it up. Like if you have CD, maybe somebody on your bench, whether it's another wide receiver or it's a running back, maybe you can package them together. Like you can give them CD and like let's say CD and Puka for Justin Jefferson, or CD and Puka for maybe even St. Brown. Although St. Brown and probably Puka put up decent numbers. I'm forgetting some. Oh, like Jamar Chase. Like maybe you want to put up CD and Puka for Jamar Chase, or you want to trade CD and Mixon for Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson. You could kind of do that thing too, where you package them. I would almost look to do that because it might gloss over a straight 1-for-1 trade in some ways. Or you could trade CD and maybe go for someone who might be considered less talented, but that puts up decent numbers. Like, I think this is too low, but I don't think you could. I think it would be disrespectful to have CD and trade for like Bucky Irving, but maybe you could trade for Mike Evans because he's going to come back. CD for Mike Evans or CD for Collins, who probably, in week 12, somebody like that. But I think that's best case scenario. People still wouldn't, you'd have to find somebody that hasn't followed the NFL very well and knows that Dak is out. All right, let's see. Joseph, I'm not even going to try the last name, Chikawala. Oh, I think I got it. Do you think Puka Nakua can put 14 points up? Well, I've been saying this a couple times tonight. Miami has the number one defense against wide receivers. They give up the lowest number of fantasy points against wide receivers in the NFL. Okay, so it's going to be a tough task. I feel like on paper maybe that, you know, I think the average their average per week, the Dolphins is 15.3, but that's an average. So some weeks they might give up 25 total fantasy points against wide receivers. The next week they might give up 10. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. All right. Somewhere in average. I think they could give up, 13 points against Cooper or Puka and like 10-ish against the other guy. So yes, I think Nakua could get 14 points. The problem of it is I have a hard time saying that Puka has a better shot over Cooper. Because I think they're used. I think that they're targeted kind of the same in some ways. That they're really not wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. That they're kind of 1A and 1B ish, or they're tied for first, however you want to say it. And so I think there's a chance that one of them gets 13 or 14 points. I also think there's a chance that one of them might get 13, 14, 15 points and the other one gets 3 points. I think there's a chance that one of them gets 13, 14 points and the other one gets 10 points. Scenarios, 2 of the 4 chances, I have them going around 14 points, and the other 2, they're either really low at like under 5 or they're, stuck around 10. It could be that Puka gets 15 and Kupp gets 3 or vice versa. That's the kind of night that it could be because Miami does have a much better defense. Miami's defense against running backs is not so good. It's 28th. So Kyren Williams should get a number of carries, and hopefully if he establishes, helps to establish the run early, it'll open up the passing and it'll open up things for Kupp and Puka, which I'm sure they're already planning for. But like the Dolphins defense against quarterbacks, obviously the one throwing the ball is number 2. They give up the second lowest points against quarterbacks. Now, why is that important? It means that they put pressure on the quarterback. It means that quarterbacks don't get a lot of points. How do quarterbacks get points? They either run it in for a touchdown, pass it in for a touchdown, or they throw the ball a ton of times and make a ton of completions. And 2 of the 3 of those rely on the ball being thrown. So yeah, can he put up 14? Yeah, I think it's 30% chance, maybe 50 if you want to go 50, but then you got to make sure it's not Cooper. So it could be even lower. So let's just split the difference and say it's like a 35% chance that Puka gets 14 points or up. I wish I could tell you something better, Joseph, but I can't. I think they're 2 smart receivers. I think they both should have double digits because they are that good. And I think if the Rams and they have good, their head coach is very strategic and usually calls a pretty good game. So I think 15 and 20, for them, for the 2 wide receivers is very doable. Which one gets 15? I wish I could tell you a little bit better. Let's hope for your sake it's Puka. All right, what do we got? 6:40 my time. Please help, Drew Ward. Tyreek or Puka? I need 20 points. I would go Tyreek, Drew. And the reason why is I know he hasn't done that this year, or maybe within the first 2 weeks. But on paper, the Rams are 27th against wide receivers, 27th worst. They're 25th worst against quarterbacks. So the people throwing Tyreek the ball, they're 25th worst and they're 27th worst against wide receivers. On paper, given the analytics, Tyreek should have a good game. Should have a good game. And Tua should have a pretty good game. All right, I'm going to jump to YouTube real quick. Everybody hang tight. Game over. Are you still around? Well, yeah, it was just 2 minutes ago. I'm up by 25, and the other team has Puka and Kupp. Am I good? Well, if you've been, yeah, you do mean Puka because then you say it there. Sorry about that. So game over. Here's the way I look at it. I've been saying it. I've been repeating it a little bit. I think Puka and Kupp, between the two of them, will get around combined about 25 points, give or take. Well, let's just say 23 points, give or take 2 points. Okay. And the reason why is Miami is number one. They have the number one defense against wide receivers, meaning they give up the lowest amount of points to wide receivers on average per game. That number, just so you know, is 15, which is 10 lower than what you're looking at. All right. But I think Puka and I think Kupp are smart, and I think they're good, and I think they have a great play caller. I think their coach is, has a great strategy or play calling strategy every game. So I think those two will probably combine right around that 25 points. That's what I feel. Now, it also could be that one of them gets 15 and the other one gets 3. I've seen that as well, where one is just shut down all night because who's ever covering him just shuts him down all night, and the other one gets, 80 yards and a touchdown, and they get their 15 points or whatever that would be in your league. So it could go that way as well. And I know I'm being wishy-washy, but from watching games all my years and from looking at the analytics, they're going up. Like the Rams defense against quarterbacks is the 25th, and the Rams defense against wide receivers is the 27th. It's the 25th worst against quarterback, 27th worst against wide receivers. And why both of those numbers are important means that, if they're not real tough on a quarterback, that means the quarterback's going to be able to throw. And so wait a second. What am I doing here? I'm giving you the wrong stats. I'm sorry. Maybe it's time I jump off. The Dolphins are number 1 against wide receivers. Okay. And the Dolphins are number 2 against quarterbacks. And why that's important, I just said it, but I gave you the wrong teams, is because that means they're going to be putting pressure on the quarterback. They hold the quarterback below a certain number because they're number 2 against quarterback. They have the second lowest points allowed against quarterbacks for fantasy, and the first lowest or the lowest fantasy points against wide receivers. And that is 15.3, like I said. So there is a good chance that, like I said, one of them gets 13 to 15 and the other one gets 3. But hopefully, they'll establish their running game, because the Dolphins are very bad against the run. They're 28th out of 32 against the run. So hopefully Kyren Williams will be able to run, excuse me, and open up the passing game. They'll be able to get, some good passes, 10, 12 yards early on every once in a while, and then continue to establish that. And, they very likely could get up to 25. I don't really see them getting much more than that, though. I think that's the max for both of them, because what I've been calling for all night is on a good night, I see one of them getting 13 plus or minus 1 or 2 points, and one of them getting 10 plus or minus 1 or 2 points. So it's right around 25. All right, it's 6:44. We got 30 minutes to game time. What other questions do you guys have? Right now we're all okay. Leave on Pickens and Pollard for Taylor and Keon Allen. Pickens and Pollard for Taylor. It's Keon Coleman. You're talking about the Chicago guy. Keenan Allen. Yeah, Keenan Allen has no value. If you're trading Pickens and Pollard for Taylor and Keenan Allen, if you're getting Taylor and Keenan Allen, I would not do that trade. If you're trading Taylor and Keenan Allen and you're getting Pickens and Pollard, I would take that. I think Pickens' value goes up because they got Mike Williams. I think the fact that Wilson is the quarterback increases Pickens' value. I think Pollard is extraordinarily solid as a running back for a very bad team, which means, a lot of the offense goes through him. He only had 8 points last week, but he had 16, 13, 7.5, 16, 17. He's relatively consistent for a team that, what are they, like 2-7 or something like that? Or no, they have to be something in, they're either 2-7 or 3-6, but they're a bad team. But I mean, he's gotten 13 or more points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of 9 weeks. So 66% of the time. Excuse me. So yeah, I wouldn't pick if you're getting Levon, if you're getting rid of Pickens and Pollard for Taylor and Keenan Allen, I would not make this trade. It's very lopsided away from your favor. Keenan Allen doesn't really have much value. Taylor is good. I think Taylor is much better than his points are showing this year. And that's a problem. But I think that they have a really, really bad offense right now. And especially quarterbacks in Indianapolis are really bad. So I think it's really hurting their offense overall. So I would not make that trade if you're the one giving up Pickens and Pollard. All right, everybody. I am going to sign off and get ready for the game. I'll be on live tomorrow. So please hit that follow. I know you guys hit likes. I appreciate all the likes, but hit that follow so you know when I'm on. I will talk to you all tomorrow night. Enjoy the game. Thank you.